Hello, and welcome to The Director's Cut, a brand new podcast brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. The Guild was formed in 1936 to protect the economic and creative rights of film directors in Hollywood, and has been committed to upholding those core values ever since. A long-standing tradition of the Guild is for its members to share the knowledge of their craft with future generations. And beginning this fall, we're bringing the insights of today's best directors to you. So please join us this season, as every week we will feature a new in-depth interview with a director of one of today's most talked-about films. Each interview is conducted by a fellow director, which allows for honest and revealing discussions about the trials, tribulations, and bittersweet victories that come from leading a crew towards a singular creative vision. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or our SoundCloud page, and we hope that you join us each week for new episodes as our members discuss how they do what they do and tell the stories that you cannot find anywhere else. For our first episode, we're going to start at the top. Any film fan knows the names of Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. Both filmmakers have been directing beloved films for decades, with Mr. Spielberg's blockbuster hits like Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Mr. Scorsese's gritty stories of the criminal underworld in Goodfellas and The Departed. The two may seem to represent the opposing coasts of American filmmaking, but you might not know that they have been friends and creative consultants for over 40 years. And the Directors Guild is where these two great cinematic masters can discuss their craft in front of an audience of their peers. What brought them together on this occasion is Mr. Spielberg's newest film, Bridge of Spies. The historical drama tells the amazing true story of James Donovan, played by Tom Hanks, a New York lawyer who accepts the unenviable task of defending Rudolph Abel, a Russian spy captured in America in 1957. After Abel's trial, Donovan's task becomes even more complicated, as he is drafted by the CIA to negotiate the release of U.S. pilot Francis Gary Powers, who was shot down over the Soviet Union during a mission in his U-2 spy plane, and for whom the Soviets may be willing to exchange their man Abel. In this intimate setting, the directors talk about their shared memories of the real incidents portrayed in the film, the challenges of visually portraying a story with lots of important dialogue, and why Mr. Spielberg changed the first scene of the film from the script. They also debate the best place for tacos when filming in Queens. We hope you enjoy listening to Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese on stage together.
Thank you.
So,
I was taking a nap before all this. I am so awake now. Thank you.
Well, I saw the picture twice now.
Twice?
Yeah. I like watching it.
Well, we're going to be here for a long time.
No, I looked at it again Saturday and really enjoyed the film so much. Really. And I guess I should just ask you, of course, to give us a little bit of a background as to what drew you to the story, to give us a sense of how it came about.
Well, I knew nothing about the story at all 2 years ago. I knew about Gary Powers because I was 13 when he was shot down, and that was the biggest news story, and everybody was talking about it, that he was a prisoner behind the Iron Curtain. But I didn't know about this story at all, and a young British playwright, Matt Charman, had been researching the Glienicke Bridge, the spy swap on Glienicke Bridge, and he found an entire paper trail, starting with James B. Donovan's work with John Ford and George Stevens, because the three of them compiled a documentary on the death camps in Germany and Poland, and put an hour-long documentary together, showed it at the Nuremberg war crime trials.
Right.
And James Donovan has a huge screen credit, which basically says, legal supervision by James B. Donovan.
Yeah, is that the one that was shown on TCM a few weeks ago?
That wasn't shown. The Nazi plan was shown, and he was involved in that, but this is a second documentary that TCM can't show. It's the most graphic Holocaust footage known. So he was very intrigued with this, and he followed the paper trail from Nuremberg to Donovan's work as representing insurance companies with this law firm. And put together the story, and then told me the story. And the first thing I did was, I doubted the credibility of the story. It sounded like everybody should have known a story like this. But when we all dug deeper into it, it turned out to be absolutely true.
I mean, what's interesting to me, what's fascinating, is that Abel and Donovan, they both are men who stand up for what they believe in, right? And there's obviously the respect between the two of them. And I just feel that it reminds me, in the great tradition thereof, of what we thought of in the older films before this happened in 1957, sort of a respect between the enemies, like as in von Stroheim and Pierre Freinet in Grand Illusion,
or Kurt Jurgens and Robert Mitchum in The Enemy Below.
The Enemy Below, or the 1916 World War I truce, or even in War Horse when they let the horse go. I mean, did that come into play a great deal for you in terms of the story?
Well, it was just that in the Facts of Life, Donovan developed a fondness for Abel. Abel was a man of the arts. He was a painter. He played classical guitar. He spoke several languages, and he was absolutely apolitical, meaning he didn't. He wasn't spouting, communist rhetoric. He wasn't. He certainly wasn't admitting what he had done, but he also there was no undercurrent of animus at all.
Interesting.
And he had been embedded in this country by the Soviet Union, who, by the way, never acknowledged he was a spy. The Soviet Union never did. Even today, they don't. But he was embedded 15 years in America, and he really thought that when there were people that needed to identify him, that they would not be able to find anybody who would recognize him 50 years later. He was really worried about that on the bridge.
Yeah.
But Donovan and Abel had a relationship, and I so enjoyed working with Tom and Mark Rylance and Tom Hanks in all those scenes together that I had to put on the brakes because I wanted Matt Sharman and Joel and Ethan Cohen, who wrote all the subsequent drafts and took it very, very deep. I wanted more scenes between them, but then I realized if I had more scenes between them, when they finally get to the bridge after a great absence in 2 shots,
right,
it wouldn't have the impact that it has when you haven't seen the characters on screen for
together.
A long time.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about working with the Coens, Joel and Ethan, who I might remind everyone is from NYU. But you brought them in, and for me, it's like when the first scene with Tom and the other guy, and he's talking about that's not my guy.
That's Joel and Ethan.
It's very much that, and it really is wonderful how that carries through.
That's when Tom committed to the movie. He said he wanted to call me after page 6, but he didn't, because the movie originally opened with that scene, and then I actually took that scene, which was the first thing I shot with Tom, and I moved it because I had an afterthought that we should start the film with. I wanted to start the movie with a reflection because I think Spycraft is about what's true and what's false. Is the reflection of the mirror of Rudolph Abel, is that the truth of Abel, or is Abel painting his understanding of what he looks like as a portrait artist doing a self-portrait, is that the truth? And so I just came up with this mirror shot to open the picture, and when I shot that, I thought we should actually open the picture with that and following and the apprehension of Abel, and then go to the Donovan character in that first scene. And that was the first scene after page 5. Tom Hanks read the scene and he said, I know who this guy is. Yeah. I know how to play him.
Yeah. No, but you see, that's what's interesting, fascinating for me, watching your work over the years, is it's the difference between visual and literature. You went for the visual for the opening. The idea of the image, the reflection, you see, rather than a dialogue scene.
Oh yeah, if you
as good as the dialogue scene is.
Look, you compare me with literate and cinema. I am illiterate.
No. I know what I mean is yes, exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, but there's a tendency to say if the lines are great and the actors are great, well, that's the movie. Well, it's a certain kind of movie. It's not every movie. But if you can think visually, if you can interpret the theme of the picture visually, and even if it isn't directly obvious, that's one of the reasons I watched the picture a couple of times, because these images stay with you. Before these guys get out of the car and all that stuff, this guy's painting and doing, what is that?
Well, the image that comes to mind that I'll never forget is out of Raging Bull with the rope and the blood, just that macro close up of the just blood dripping from the rope.
Yeah.
He didn't have. That said everything. Sometimes, I came up with a shot on the day because I saw all these not paparazzi, but they were in those days paparazzi before the name was known here, and they were taking all the pictures of Abel and Donovan and his wife and Alan Alda playing Waters, and I watched them popping their flashbulbs out to relight their flashbulbs, and they were hitting the ground. And I remember as a kid, seeing flashbulbs all over the ground. So I threw the camera on the ground, and just got one shot of their feet walking over the flashbulbs. But that's the great thing about directing, that you can have tremendous respect for the written word, and I do, and I've recently I've had tremendous collaborations with Matt Sharman and the Coen brothers and certainly Tony Kushner and Tom Stopper. The written word is everything. We can't do anything without something on paper. But where you insinuate the camera and where you can sneak the cinema in on a word-heavy film is a real challenge.
That's extraordinary. That is true. Like it's a dialogue scene sometimes that is really, as you say, word-heavy. It's the old story. It's only one position for the camera. Well, where the hell is it? But it is a matter, though, of natural visual thinking, and that's what makes this picture so viewable, so watchable.
If I didn't have strong performances, I would have shot everything in singles, because then I can make the performances better in the cutting room. But when you've got great actors, I don't need the close-ups. Because everybody here can be the film editor. You can just sit here and watch the movie and decide who to look at. So when I had Mark Rylance in that first scene with Tom Hanks, putting the camera, where to put the camera was easy. Just put it where you can watch them both at the same time.
You can see the two of them, No, but it's also true that cinema is also a medium shot or a close-up of a person speaking, But again, it's the use of light behind them, the window. And that glowing light that you have there.
Well, that's Janusz Kaminski.
Extraordinary, I think. Younger people don't realize the mood of the time.
Right. And I love the cop says to him, "I was third wave on Omaha Beach," and I said, "Tom, tell him you were in the first wave."
And the other guys say, "Would you please go, please, officer?" Oh man! But they're shooting in the guy's house.
Yeah, that really happened. The movie's a true story. I didn't say a true story because we took license with some of the drama. Like, for instance, they shot Donovan's house, but Donovan had just moved from the house into an apartment. And I wanted to keep them in the house. It was much more American. It just felt more familiar to keep them in a home, not an apartment. And the second thing was they shot up the house, but only one bullet made it through the window. And of course, I put 5 through the window.
Well, you have to do a few more. Yeah, you have to do a few more, Steve. You got to do. But
you would have done a few more.
No, right? I would have done a few more. I would have done a little more. But he moved. They still shot at him. I don't care where he moved. I'm serious. It doesn't matter. Well, he moved to an apartment. Big deal. They're still shooting the house. What if he'd been in there? What if his kids were, God forbid? All that.
Well, the daughter, I had lunch with the daughter, Mary Ellen, the youngest daughter. She said the bullet came through the window and just missed her.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And it's great putting 77 Sunset Strip on the TV.
Listen, I watched that show constantly. That and Maverick.
Oh, Maverick. Well, but 77 had Ed Kooky Burns. Lend me your comb, Kooky, lend me your comb. Remember the song? Yeah, it was a big deal. This was the 50s,
I'm looking around. I don't think a lot of people remember that right here.
This was the 50s. Talk about the Berlin sequences are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the way it's done.
We shot that in Berlin and Breslau, Poland, just on the German-Polish border.
The staging of some of those scenes, like the building of the wall and those kids going over which is one of the great shots, really. The kids running through to the wall and climbing over and getting shot down. And it's really the shot of Tom looking out the window, and then he's on the right of frame, and then he sits down after they're shot, and he goes into darkness.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. I love him.
Oh, that's what I said. Wow, look at that. That's wow, that's great. But the look on his face and everybody in the train, that's the train. That train, just let me ask you, that's the train. If you were on that train, it was okay to go through the different sections?
Yeah.
I see.
Americans could get they could get a two-way ticket, but the GDR so hassled him and gave him such a hard time because the GDR, the German Democratic Republic, wanted to be recognized as a nation state. They didn't want to be under the boot heel of Khrushchev and what was going on in the Soviet Union. They kept sort of fighting for their own independence. And when they, captured the other American economic student, he was a political, chip in order to get the Americans, or at least Donovan representing the Americans, to deal very seriously and recognize them as a power to be reckoned with.
Right.
And that all happened. But it was interesting because it was very strange. We did build the wall. We built it for blocks and blocks and blocks. None of that's digital work. When they're building the wall, that goes for, I don't know, quarter mile or so all the way down the street. And we were building the wall, and we were shooting those scenes 3 days before the 25th anniversary of the wall coming down.
Oh, God. It's great.
Which was very interesting and very emotional for the German crew and for everybody working on the film, especially some of the older crew members who really had, for them it happened yesterday. Yeah, the wall going up.
Yeah, the soldiers playing. I mean, those guys were they German actors or
they're
Polish?
all German actors.
Because when the ones who stop him when he's saying "Bitte," I have the.
Yeah, well, Donovan spoke just enough German because Donovan learned his German in the United States Naval Reserve when he was working on the Nuremberg case. So he learned just enough German during Nuremberg that he was able to and he did that. He actually did that. If you read Donovan's memoirs, he started at the back of the line. He looked at his watch. I'm late for I don't even know where the KGB headquarters is, but I got to find it. I need time to find it. And he took a huge cut in line, got in big trouble for it.
That's great. Because also when they finally says, okay, you can go, and they look at him, and then he starts walking.
Yeah.
And there's no direction anywhere. He doesn't know where exactly he's going. After all that commotion at the checkpoint, quote unquote, he starts walking, and all these kids there, and they got to give him his coat. He has to give his coat, understandable.
It's understandable.
It's cold. Yeah, it's a good coat.
And I didn't put subtitles in because I thought that it'd be scarier for all of us to be Donovan and to try to figure out just by gesture and expression what was the tenor of that.
Yes, that's great.
That moment where it was dangerous, and how dangerous could it have gotten, and what did those German kids really want?
Yeah, and when the second time I watched it, I watched each cut and each frame on that the framing of each one and where the kids were in his position, and the tone of each line. And I wanted to figure out first time when I realized that they weren't going to hit him, but they wanted something.
Yes.
And we realized it's the coat. Okay.
Yes.
But I had to figure it out like him,
and he was the first thing he said. I think the word is verlaufen, lost. And Tom said, "I'm not sure anybody's going to understand what that is. So maybe I can also use some gestures to try to communicate with the German kids." He did this with his hand. Tom, did this, which sort of gives the indication that he was lost. So we helped it a little bit with international hand sign. But it's really interesting because it was so cold shooting this movie. I was so cold shooting this film.
You shot fast, huh?
We shot fast. Oh my God, it was so cold. The only time we had to put breath in, that we got into the safe house. I wanted the safe house to be freezing. It was a real location. It was really cold. But once you get the lights on, you turn on all the lights. You get into the set, and you look at the set, and you're the first on the set with the cameraman. I'm looking around, and I can see my breath, and I say, "Oh, great! Look, I took my phone out and backlit my breath so I made sure I could see it."
Yeah.
And then Janusz lit the set, and the second the lights came on, the breath went away.
Gone. Yeah, I was wondering.
And I think that the fakest digital stuff. Look, we can create anything digitally, right? Except breath.
Yeah.
We can't do digital breath. Why is that? I don't know why that is. So I had this crazy idea. I said, why don't we do this? Let's get a couple of actors, not the principals, but get a couple of actors, teach them the dialogue, let them hear the lines spoken in their ears, put black masks over their faces so only their lips are exposed, and then backlight the breath, and then let them do all the dialogue. So the breath you see in the safe house is actually breath coming from an understudy's lips.
I wondered how you did that. I said, don't tell me you did the old Billy Friedkin, The Exorcist. You went into a meat locker.
No, we didn't go to a meat locker. No, it was a meat locker when we got there, and then the lights
went on. Yeah,
made it into a nice, comfortable habitat.
No, but and that was an actual location because that room was really something. When he said, "Well, looking at the place," said, "Where are you going to be?" He said, "I'm going to be at the Hilton." Great, thanks.
I think the way Hanks takes that moment.
Oh, it's great.
He says, "I'm going to be at the Hilton," and Tom just looks at him. He doesn't do anything; just looks at him.
Yeah. I mean, you had a lot of the production design. I thought was quite beautiful.
Adam Stockhausen.
Yeah,
Adam does all of Wes Anderson's movies.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Because also it had a design to it. I mean, it had a certain look. You know, linear, kind of Mondrian kind of feeling to it, I thought. But I did see you had to do it, though. You had to do it. You had to do it.
What was that?
The movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Well, Einstein Dry.
Einstein Dry.
And Spartacus.
Yes.
He couldn't resist. The man's making a phone call. He's got to get his whole story going on. You got to go to Spartacus. I said, look, I told Francesca, look, that's Spartacus.
Well, it's good because Bryan Cranston's playing Dalton Trumbo, so it's for them too.
Perfect. That's right.
You know, I told Kirk Douglas that I said, Kirk, you got to go see the movie because I acknowledge Spartacus in the movie. I won't tell you where. You have to find it. This is a spy movie, but it's not a spy movie. It's about spycraft, but it's more about the art of conversation. It's about wordcraft, really.
Yes. Yeah.
And how things can be settled, you know, in a very, very civilized way. Mm-hmm. If you've got an ethical, principled man who's determined to do something, determined even to, when you take ethics and ambition, you combine them. That's who James Donovan was. Ethics, ambition, and he wants 2 for 1. Everything's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
So in doing all this, one of the things that was important to Joel and Ethan and certainly Matt Sharman was we didn't want to show around the next corner. I love movies where you can see around the next corner, and when we get to the corner you would hope for, we all feel good about ourselves because the movie basically we got to predict what was going to happen next.
Right.
You don't want to do that in a Hitchcock film,
right,
but you do want to sort of do that in spy movies. We didn't want to do that in this one. And we also didn't want to have a bunch of trapdoors or red herring, you know, dead ends, which is kind of frustrating. It works in The Spy Who Came from the Cold, which is my favorite.
Wonderful, yes.
My favorite
Marty
spy
Ritt's
movie
film.
of all time.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I think what we did was I wanted the New York portion of the movie to be very much like, you know, with more colors. Just to feel more alive, more like Look magazine, like Life magazine.
That's what I mean about the design of it. Yeah,
you know, the Rockwellian, not really exaggerating or pushing Rockwell too much, but just more colors. And then the second part of the movie, and I decided to fade out the American part, so it fades out and fades back in on Berlin, and then the entire color palette changes.
Yeah.
To what you'd expect to be, you know, cold and dreary and blue and overcast and very oppressive. And the reason I wanted to do that was to try to get everybody to understand what it felt like in Donovan's shoes.
Yeah.
To go from that very warm, you know, American safe, protected by all of the laws of the land, into a place that was like a frontier town of Eastern Berlin.
You feel it. I mean, you get. I mean, sure, from his law office, from his house, everything, and then you know that's why later on when he shows up for the breakfast at the Hilton. It's glorious. The Hilton is glorious. Orange and purple and I don't know. No, orange and blue, right? Orange and turquoise.
It was orange and blue.
It's wonderful. You know, the U-2 plane itself, you told me, where did you shoot that now? And give a little idea what the planes are like.
Right. We shot that at Beale Air Force Base. The U-2 program is still an active program. And I don't know how many U-2s there are at the base that was classified, but they allowed us to use a vintage U-2, but it had been painted black. And we didn't have the budget to paint it silver the way it was in real life. Oh. The U-2s were all silver. It didn't make sense because it made more sense they should paint them black. But they painted
like
them
stealth,
silver then.
You know.
Yeah. And we actually flew for us. They landed it and took it off several times. And it was amazing to be in the chase car with 3 cameras in the chase car. Yeah. We were moving as fast as the U-2 taking off. So all those shots are no digital work. The only digital work that we do is, of course, when the U-2 shot down.
Yes.
But all the takeoffs and everything around the actual airplane is real. And it's so funny. I'm here to explain to everybody. I'm saying, please believe it's real.
I know. It's
And is there a day going to come, Marty, and you're more apt to do this than I am, but is a day going to come where you make a movie and it's so visually spectacular that you have to actually advertise that there's no visual shots in the movie, no digital shots in the entire picture?
There might be. There might be.
It's like the anti color by Technicolor,
I know.
in CinemaScope,
Yeah.
in Super Panavision 70.
Yeah.
No digital shots in the film.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I've just been back from Taipei. You
We're saying that the locations were so spectacular that you were worried that people wouldn't believe that they
they're
were
not going to believe. Yeah,
caught on film.
absolutely not. And that we got up there in the first place, some of those places. But
I could interview him.
no,
You have to first understand, we met in 1967.
yeah, that's right.
That's when we first met. Marty had made a film about a guy who gets a very close shave.
The Big Shave.
The Big Shave. And Vernon Zimmerman showed the film on his wall in 16 millimeter and invited me over, and that's when you and I first met.
And you, what was the film again? The thriller, the one you did, the black and white?
Encounter.
Yeah, that's it. The Encounter, yeah. And that's when we first started hanging out.
We did. I showed you Encounter. You showed me The Big Shave, and that was the beginning of a beautiful love story.
And we'd always say, but we'd always and then other people come around, but we'd always sort of gravitate. Hey, did you see this film? What about that? You remember that guy? And this sort of, and we'd be really into it all the time. Other people sort of came and go.
Can I tell my taxi driver story?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know which one.
Well, Marty used to become quite apoplectic, especially with studio people. Like all the classic directors that we all have learned so much from. And Marty said, I'm having a big problem. You got to come look at the last scene. I hadn't seen any of the movie. You didn't show me the movie. You had me come to the cutting room. Marcia Lucas was cutting with you. And you said, I just want to show you the shootout at the end.
Yeah, and actually you helped with one of the cuts I was having a problem with. I told Susan Lacey the other day, there was a guy with the glasses that got shot. And I said, I can't make this thing work. He said, do this and that. And it worked. It was on Moviola, actually.
It was on Moviola then. So Marty shows me the sequence, which is with no context, with nothing coming before that scene. I was completely gobsmacked. It was absolutely astonishing. And Marty said, okay, I showed it to you because the studio is telling me I have to cut it. I said, what? They're telling me we're going to get an X rating. I've got to cut the scene. Or I've got to cut all the blood out. I got to cut the fingers coming off when the gun goes off. I got to cut the overhead shot with all the gore and all the long camera that goes all the way where you took the roof off and shot straight down.
Yeah.
And when Marty could work himself up in those days, not anymore the way he used to.
A little calmer.
But Marty he's a lot calmer. He could so work himself up. And so Marty was actually plotting murder at that point. And could he get away with it? I won't mention the person you wanted to kill. I won't do that.
It turned out it was all right, but
But here's what it turned out. You had a great idea. You explain what you did.
Desaturate the color.
He desaturated the color, and the MPAA gave him an R rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually that desaturation. I love what Oswald Morris and John Huston did in Moby Dick, 1956. They used a 3-strip Technicolor, and they did something by emphasizing one strip over the other. And I had never seen anything quite like it. I was trying to get to that. I wanted the whole film to be that way. But
that was such an important film in my life because I saw that film in a movie theater, and it actually the first time I ever consciously wanted to physically be part of a movement was when they were killing the whales for the movie.
Yeah.
And I had never seen a whale being killed. And when I went to the movie and I saw those whales being killed, and I knew that the white whale, Moby Dick, was obviously a mechanical whale, but the other whales were real. Yeah. I got on a complete tear about that, which has not stopped.
No, I know. The actor who plays Abel.
Mark Rylance.
Yeah, Mark Rylance. I had no idea who it was all the way to the very end. I thought it was amazing. The anonymity somehow that he used. A totally different style of acting, different thing. But Tom Hanks, whom I adore. It's like, well, how many? It's your fourth picture or fifth?
This is the fourth. Well, the fourth time I've directed Tom in a film, but we've collaborated on miniseries together as producers.
Right.
But Abel was the first time they worked together was that first scene where Tom introduces himself as Donovan to Abel. And after the first take, Tom came out and pulled me aside from to the edge of the set, and he just said, "Oh my God, my job is going to be." First he said, "Oh my God, Mark Rylance," as Tom could do it, and then he said, "My job is going to be not to fall under his spell, because he's so spectacular, being so still. Yeah. I can't take that bait and match stillness with stillness. I I have to maintain who Donovan was, the bulldog.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you could see it in Tom's eyes.
And so Tom continued his dogged pursuit of, you know, the truth and justice and all of that. But there's a great temptation when you're working with an actor of tremendous quiet to return with quiet.
Yeah.
When it was such a tribute to Tom that he consistently kept his character exactly how he originally saw the character.
Oh, they were
and then you had two completely opposite performances.
That's why the second time seeing it again, just enjoying the performances. And I think about Tom, you know, I always loved Tom. I always wanted to work with him. And you could see in that first scene, he's looking at him. His eyes are working fast. The other guy's like this. And he's saying, finally, at one point, he said, you know, they want to electrocute you. Uh-huh. He said, aren't you worried? The guy said, would it help? Okay. All right, I can't go that way. Okay, let me go this way. And you could see it every time.
That was sort of, it wasn't even like playing chess. It was more like a casual game of checkers in the park.
Yeah,
because you can't play chess with a person like Abel, the way Mark Rylance played him.
Yeah.
You know, you don't ever want to get a chessboard between the two of you. You know.
Yeah.
But that's what he liked. That's what in real life he liked so much about Abel.
Oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful.
And Mark, you know, as you've seen him on stage, you know, Twelfth Night and
Yes,
Richard III and Jerusalem, you know, and that's why I cast him in this. And I was kind of amazed that he's played a couple small parts in movies, but never something like this before. And I was kind of struck with why not?
Right.
I mean, why now for the first time does he have a major part in a movie? And the other good news about getting people to get to know Mark, Wolf Hall is such a spectacular, you know, miniseries. Have you seen Wolf Hall?
No.
Mark said, oh my God, it's amazing. Great. And Wolf Hall came, you know, he was...
Oh, Wolf Hall, of course. Yes.
Yeah, for PBS. And so it's just another aspect of him. He has so many aspects. And so after the first day of shooting, I pulled him aside, Mark aside. And I said, hey, Mark, would you read a script? And he said, oh, no, I really couldn't, because if I read a script, it'll take my attention off of this character. I said, well, can I give you the script to read when you don't have anything better to do? So I gave him my next movie, BFG, The Big Friendly Giant, and not expecting him to read it for at least 3 months. And about a week later, he said, oh, this is extraordinary.
Oh, that's great.
But there's no part for me. And I said, yeah, you're the Big Friendly Giant. Really? Do you see me as the Big Friendly Giant? Because his character is so different in this movie than it is, and so Mark signed on, and he's
that's great.
The Big Friendly Giant.
That's great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Fantastic. No, it's a real textbook in acting. I mean, between the two of them in those scenes, every scene they're in is just remarkable.
So, you know, and we just had a great deal of the shooting here in New York. I just have to throw this in. I've never done a whole movie in New York, but I've also never done half a movie in New York, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had working here. It really was.
Oh, it's
And there's so much going on right now in the city. There's so much going on the streets of the city, at the different studios, and also the different sprouting studios.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, hey, there's a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, right? Busby Berkeley.
Let's
Get a show on the road. Let's go into that warehouse and do 18 episodes or something. But it's just incredible shooting here, and I think, and I'm not going to compare, you know, the East Coast to West Coast, except to say in New York, it seems that everybody on the set takes the work personally. I mean, actually feels like they're part of a creative experience. And so there's much more esprit de corps. There's much more, when there's a great take. I've not experienced this too much. It's happened sometimes, but after Mark would do a great scene, or Tom Hanks would do a great scene, or Alan Alda, or Amy Ryan, you know, I'd walk out and I'd have crew members stop and say, that was great.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great together.
Yeah.
You know, I can't believe I couldn't watch it. I couldn't see it because I'm doing my job. I'm pulling the cable, but I could hear it. It sounded amazing. The kind of confidence that gives a director when you've got the crew that organically behind you is you can't pay for that. Now, I've gotten some of my best ideas from assistant directors. I have many stories about this, but my favorite story is I was making Raiders of the Lost Ark, and David Tomlin came over to me. And we were shooting the scene in the classroom where Harrison now is in his tweeds and he's teaching class. And all the girls are all moony-eyed over him, and he's talking about all the hidden burrows and how to do archaeology and all that. And David Tomlin came over to me and he said, and he says it the way the English only could, in a dry, throwaway way. He said, "You see that girl in the first row, the pretty one?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Why don't you get a pen and paint love you
Great.
on each eyelid and just have her close her eyes, and Indy looks and sees she has love you written on her eyelids when she closes them." And you know when you hear a good idea how you go nuts, it becomes the greatest thing you've ever heard? I mean, we probably shot that 14 minutes after David gave me the idea.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's the whole thing here. I mean, did you shoot at Steiner Studio too? At Steiner's?
Bridge of Spies shot at Steiner, which is great.
Yeah.
It's great because the takeout places are really good
Yes,
all around
I know.
Steiner.
I know.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Oh, my God. Otto's
kidding?
Tacos.
Forget
Have
it.
you ever been to Otto's Tacos?
Yeah, forget it. It's a killer.
Oh, forget it.
You got to watch out. You got to watch out.
My doctor said I
You're getting
should
older.
never go to Otto's Tacos again.
No,
My
don't.
cholesterol shot up to...
Well, they're crazy. They're all young. They're all young and big people. I can't get through to them on the set because I'm too short. Seriously. All the guys, they're eating those tacos and things. But we did a lot of the vinyl out there we're doing. That vinyl is that TV thing, yeah. But that's always been the thing with me, doing Goodfellas and so many of the key grips and the sound department and the props. My mother and father used to be on the set. My mother's in the film, so they were all eating together and cooking together. It was more like a family. There was no doubt about it.
Your mother should have gotten the Oscar.
Oh, thank you.
Especially for Goodfellas.
Oh, God. What a night that was. Oh. It was great. It was one of the easiest things I ever did. I just sat there. On 2 cameras, I mean, kind of easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because she took over and then that was it. So. Of course, it's me, Marty, and my son's friends. It's not like a big actor or anything. It's Bobby.
Because she looked at Bobby like one of your buddies.
One of my friends, yeah. It's just like the kid who comes over to the house. And Joe, too. Same thing. Yeah,
my kids, they were never impressed by movie stars or actors. They only wanted to know the people I never knew, like Kobe Bryant and, Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, those were the people I never met. That they didn't think I was worth anything if I didn't know them.
Well, that's the scene in the picture, too, when he calls with Spartacus in the background. He says, "Can I say hello to the kid?" And all right, can I say hello to this? Is there anyone who isn't too busy? Right, exactly. They should know what I'm doing. They have no idea, Well,
it's just you're creating a story, and you've got to find the humanity somewhere, and it's not just moral humanity. It's the humanity of a man who has a family and loves his family and has a job and loves his job. Yeah. And so we had many more family scenes actually in the longer version of Bridge of Spies. But the movie tells us what to do with it. We all know that. We're all in the same business in this room for sure. And the movie tells us what to do with it. And I don't ever blame myself or feel guilty when I cut out some really good scenes, because the movie says it was great on the day, but it doesn't belong with me.
I know.
It's not really.
I know. It's
telling the story.
It's so upsetting, but it's that fear of seeing the picture for the first time, put together, quote unquote. Yes. Kind of sometimes thrown together, sometimes actually almost halfway there, and then I think it was Departed. I was with Thelma, and I said, "All right, let's put this thing together." I don't know. We worked on it for months, and it's getting harder for me to look at rushes too, because the shoots are pretty long, and so we finally put it together, and I looked at her with her in the screening room upstairs, and after it was over, I think it was like almost 3 hours, I looked at her, I said, "Don't show this to anyone. Lock the doors." And I did. For 6 weeks, they were furious. The backers were going in the studio. We got to come into the thing. Don't answer the phone. Don't do anything. We rearranged the entire picture. Then we looked at it again, then recut it again, then had 2 people come in to start. But it was so shocking that, and usually it's George Lucas said, if the first cut is good, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
He said a lot of things.
I know. When I made Close Encounters, I used to take my 8mm camera everywhere with me, and my editor film me reacting to my first cut of Close Encounters, and the camera pans around and they couldn't find me. I actually crawled under the chair in the theater. I was hiding under the seat, squeezed in there. It was such a bad first cut. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what, aside from saying that it's a wonderful film, and I'm honored to be here again with you doing this stuff.
This is the first time we've done this, by the way.
Oh, I think.
This is our first Q&A.
Yeah. I know.
Well,
we could go on for a while.
We've tried. I tried to do one for Marty on The Departed, and I was shooting at the time, so it's like this was. Right. This was. I'm so glad you did this, Marty. This is such a pleasure to be here with you.
Terrific film, and all the other stuff we can go through, but I know it's late night.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the highlights of this talk. If you want to hear every word shared between these two legends, you can watch video of the entire Q&A on our website at dga.org/events. On our website, you can watch all of our recent filmmaker Q&As, including another interview with Mr. Spielberg, conducted in Los Angeles by Paul Thomas Anderson, the director of Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood. We also launched the Director's Cut with a bonus episode of Guillermo del Toro, the director and visionary mind behind the scary and beautiful Crimson Peak, discussing his newest film along with a longtime friend Alejandro González Iñárritu, the director of Birdman and the most recent winner of the DGA Award for Outstanding Achievement in Feature Films, as well as Best Director at last year's Academy Awards. If you enjoyed the Director's Cut, please subscribe to it on iTunes or our SoundCloud page so you won't miss an episode. This podcast is brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. Music is produced by Dan Wally. Coming up next week, Angelina Jolie Pitt will talk about directing her third feature film, By the Sea, the story of a couple trying to rekindle their dormant relationship while on a vacation in an idyllic French seaside resort, starring her and Brad Pitt. We hope you hear from us then.